Thanks for your interest in WebLink, our network-connected SafeLock solution from SECURAM Systems. WebLink allows you to remotely manage and program your SafeLocks no matter where they are in the connected world. Let's take a look at the features available with WebLink. First, the SafeLock itself has 99 user capacity. It has single control or dual control. What that means is if you set it up in single mode or single control, you can have one valid code open the safe. If you set it up in dual mode, then two valid codes are required to open the safe. And we also have a dual manager mode where you can set it up so that it's in dual mode, so two codes are required, but one of those codes has to be a manager in order to open the safe. We also have a feature called time delay, which is a robbery deterrent. You can set this up from 1 minute to 99 minutes. How this would work is you'd enter your code, the SafeLock would count up the prescribed period of time, and then when it reaches the end of that time, you would be prompted to enter your code again, and the SafeLock would open. So it delays the opening. WebLink also has a 1,000 event audit trail that's maintained locally. But because it's a connected solution, all of the audit trail information is sent directly back to the software. So you have unlimited audit trail events on the software. WebLink also has timetables where you can manage access. You can set it up with 4 different time slots throughout the day where valid codes will allow you to open the safe. WebLink allows you to monitor the door open time, and if it's open longer than the prescribed time, it'll send you an email alert or an SMS text alert. WebLink also has duress. Duress is a feature that allows your employees, when they're under duress and being held up, for instance, they can enter their code 1 digit higher or lower than their normal code. The lock will open, but it'll also send a silent alarm to the alarm panel to advise you that they're under duress. Because it's a connected solution, we can send you alerts by either email or SMS text, and you have a variety of alerts that you can set up to monitor security violations. WebLink supports up to 5 lock bodies per entry pad. That means you can connect 1 entry pad on the outside of the safe and control up to 5 compartments inside the safe. Now, how does WebLink connect to the software platform? We use a wireless access point which connects to your network with an Ethernet cable. It then uses the wireless access point to send data to and from the SafeLock via encrypted wireless communication. This makes installation of the SafeLock really easy and communication of data very, very secure. Let's take a look at the software. WebLink software is set up on your server in your network environment. You log on to the software just like you'd log into your bank account online, an email and a password. Once logged in, you have availability to program locks, add new locks, reset user codes, view status of locks, and look at audit trails. Let's take a closer look at the software. You log into WebLink by entering an email and a password. Click on Login. And you're presented immediately with a dashboard that tells you vital information. It gives you a lock overview to show you how many locks are online, how many locks are offline, how many are receiving information from the software, and how many have been deactivated. If I had locks assigned to me, then I would also see my locks that I have access to. If there are new locks to be set up, I would see them under the Lock Setup widget. And then the lock profiles that I can assign to various locks with their programming requirements, I could see here. And then the staff that have been added to the software and can be assigned to locks would be viewed here. So we'll just take a quick look. Under Organization, we can set up an organization that resembles your organization, and it can have as many levels as required. Here we have a head office and a number of regional branches. Under Manage Staff, we can add staff to be assigned to various locks. So let's go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to add a staff member to Headquarters. So I click on Headquarters as the organizational region, and then I'm going to click on the plus sign here and add a staff member. So let's add a staff member. We can assign him to any of our organizational structures. Let's just say Headquarters. And I can have an email associated with this person or an employee ID or both. Let's put an employee ID of DF123. Now let's enter this person's name. So in this case, we'll call this Dennis Franco. We could have a cell phone number for him as well. Now, if this user is going to be assigned to a SafeLock, we don't need to provide him any of these capabilities that are related to the software. If he's going to be a software operator, then we could apply any of these capabilities and he could then have access to various parts of the software. In this case, we'll just add him as a lock operator. He's one of our store managers. We click on Save. And that person has now been saved under the organizational section of headquarters. So we see him appear here. Now let's go take a look at some locks. So we click on the lock section down here, and I'll just collapse this view. Under lock section, we can look at lock list. And here's all the locks that we have across our region. In this demo, we only have 2 locks, but this could be thousands of locks. So let's see what the lock list shows us. It shows us status. It says it's online. It's plugged into AC power as it should be. This is the device ID, a unique number associated with this particular lock. This is the name of the lock. We've called this branch number 476. It has a location number. This happens to be a number that identifies its location for this organization. It's within headquarters, and it is a profile called 99-minute time delay, but that could be anything. That's a name we've made up. It shows its current lock time and how many lock bodies are associated with this particular lock. So this has 1 entry pad connected to 1 lock body, whereas the one below it here has 1 entry pad and it controls 2 lock bodies. Perhaps this is an outer door and an inner door inside the safe. But you see that here. If one of these locks were to be opened, this would turn to red and it would show as the unlocked padlock symbol. So what I'd like to do now is we've added a user. I'd like to add that user to this lock and show you how that would work. So we go to Assign Users to Locks. And it's asking which user you'd like to assign. I'd like to assign Dennis Franco. And it currently says Dennis Franco is not assigned to any locks. Would you like to assign him? Yes. So I click the lock icon here. And I can select the lock. Now I could filter it by organization or I could search for it by name. But I'm going to select branch number, actually let's select store number 123. And I click on Assign. And now that lock has been sent to the assigned side of this grid. And if I click on Next here, it will ask me what locks I want to give him access to. So we know there's 2 locks available on this particular lock. Let's assign his access rights. Right now he has access to only lock number 1. Do we want to have him have access to lock number 2? If so, click Yes, and it turns that on. Dennis now has access to lock number 1 and lock number 2. Now, do we want him to have any other capabilities? Do we want him to have a time delay override code? Meaning that if there's time delay set, he would be able to enter his code and override that open the safe immediately. We could do that. Let's say we're going to do that for lock number 2. Do we want him to have a timetable override or a dual mode override? Do we want him to be a dual manager? So all of these are characteristics that we can apply to this particular user as access rights. We'll leave it just as time delay override. And we click on Save. All right. This user, Dennis Franco, remember we didn't enter an email address for him, so it shows as a temporary code. Now with the temporary code, Dennis will go to this particular lock that he's been assigned to. He'll enter that temporary code, and it'll not open the lock, but it'll give him the opportunity to add his own unique code that only he knows. He'll then repeat that code, and then the lock will open. So that's how easy it is to assign a user to any particular lock. Click on OK here. Now that temporary code came up in that instance, but if it had an email, Dennis would have been sent an email and the operator of the software wouldn't have seen that temporary code. Now let's take a look at lock history. Lock history is a full list of all of the activities that have taken place on these locks over whatever time period you select. So it's a full audit trail with the lock name, the date and time, the device ID, who did the activity by name, what activity they did, and which lock they opened or accessed. So what we've covered so far is how you add employees easily to the software, how you assign them to locks, and then view lock history. I'll show you one thing. How do you program locks? So let's go back to lock list, and we'll click on branch number 476. Now, here it says this is branch number 476. It has 1 lock body attached to it. Here's all its information. If I click on Setup here, I can see how this lock is set up. So we've selected a lock profile called 99-minute time delay, But if I wanted to change that to something else, I could certainly do it. If I wanted to create a new profile, I could do that here by clicking the radio button for New Profile. If I wanted to change any of the parameters that are associated with the programming parameters of this lock, I could do it in the screen. For instance, I currently have dual mode on lock number 1. Let's say we don't want to do that. We want to turn dual mode off. We just clicked off. Time delay, we have set at 3 minutes with a 5-minute time opening window. So let's click on this little icon. We're going to change that to be 10-minute time delay. And the opening window, let's say it's going to be 7 minutes. Click on done. If I wanted to establish a maximum lock opening time, I could do that by clicking this icon. Right now we have it for 2 minutes. Let's say we want to make that 10 minutes. We can do that. Click on done. And then we can set timetables here. The timetable currently for these locks. Timetable for this lock is currently set up so that the lock can be opened every day of the week, all day long. But let's configure a timetable for this lock so you can see how easy it is to set up. We have lock number 1 on Monday. We only want this lock to be open from 0800 hours to 11 o'clock. The available time slot changes in the graphic below. Monday's timetable during which it can be opened is now from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. If I want to do the same for Tuesday, I can do that also. There are 4 available time slots per day. Let's go back to Monday and I'll show you how that works. In the second time slot, perhaps we want it available to be open from 2100 to 2230. Now you see the time slot is updated in the graphic, 8 a.m. to 11, and another slot from 2100 to 2230. A valid code can open the lock during those periods. We're going to name this as a new profile, so let's call this Test 2. The new timetable profile is saved and we click on Done. And now all of the programming parameters have been set for this particular lock and we click on Save. It's saying, are you sure you want to do this? And we click on Submit. Now that information is being transferred to the lock and the lock will receive its new programming parameters and those changes will take effect. When this turns back to green, the programming parameter has been accepted by the lock and it has taken effect. All right, so that's changed back to the green symbol instead of the yellow. Yellow meant it was transferring. Now that programming has been received and the connection status has changed to green again, which is online, and we're good to go. That's how easy it is to program a lock. Now, one thing that happens quite often is a user will be assigned to a lock and they'll have forgotten their code. So how would we deal with that in a system like this? We could go to Organization, Reset Lock Code, select the person you want to change the code for. Remember we added Dennis Franco? Well, he forgot his code. So we click on here, and it's going to say Dennis is assigned to this particular lock at store number 123. Would you like to reset his code? Click on Reset. And again, if he had an email associated with his name, that temporary code would be sent to Dennis Franco's email. In this case, he doesn't have an email, so we're going to tell Dennis Franco his new code. That temporary code will be entered into the safe lock, and then he chooses his 8-digit code that is unique to him and only known by him, repeats it, and that will be his code. So that's how easy it is to reset a code. Now I'd like to show you one more thing, and that's alert setup. Because this is a connected solution, we have the ability to receive information from the system. So we're going to go down here to alert setup, and we're going to set an alert. Let's set an alert for store number 123. We have a couple of alerts set up already, but we're going to set up a new alert. So we click on this icon, and let's say we want to have Dennis Franco is going to have an alert. We're going to assign him to this alert profile and click Next. And what would we like Dennis Franco to know? We want him to know that if a lock is open, we want him to get an email or a text. If the lock is closed, we want him to get an email or text. Let's say if the lock is offline, we'll give him an email or text. And maybe if there's power loss, we'll send him an email or text. Click on Save, and that information is now saved. Whenever those conditions are met, Dennis Franco will get an email or a text depending on his profile that we set up. So that's really a quick view of the SECURAM WebLink system. It's an at-a-glance, easy-to-use, very intuitive, safe lock management system that will save you lots of time, energy, and resources and make a very cost-effective solution for your safe management program. WebLink from SECURAM.